So today's book is in Italian, La luce delle stelle by Licia Troisi. Yes, you've heard that name before. I first found her as an author with Cronache del Mondo Emerso, which was a 3-book fantasy trilogy. I read it in my first year of learning Italian. It took me 6 months, but I got there. Then earlier last year I read her non-fiction book about astrophysics, which is her other profession. That is when I discovered this book, her first foray into mystery and crime. It ended up being on sale at a reduced price just before Christmas, and I had a bookless gap, which this filled nicely. It only took a week to read, which is not for any other reason than I was enjoying it a lot, so I read it multiple times a day. The setting is an observatory. We're talking astronomy, remote from any other civilization. The characters are a mix of nationalities, and that brings up another mystery which I'll get to in a minute. Our main character, Gabriele, starts off by complaining about how other people who are not Italian pronounce his name, and there are quite a few digs about things at the beginning of the book, some specifically linked to nationalities. His sidekick, if you can call her that, is a Spanish speaker. As regards the other main characters, there is a British person and an American person, another Italian and another Spanish-speaking person, and another person who I think might have been French, but I don't remember being told that. I have no idea what language they are supposedly speaking most of the time, probably English, but it might not be. But Gabriele and his sidekick are almost certainly speaking Italian. So given the cut-off nature of the location, this is your typical crimes happen and one of us must be doing it scenario, and there are multiple things that happen. I did guess almost straight away who done it and kind of what might have happened without the finer details, but that didn't spoil the journey because I could easily have been wrong. Gabriele has a lot of internal monologue going on, which he's very conscious of, and I would say he's not your typical hero of such a scenario. There is also quite a bit of social commentary hidden within the narrative, which I found quite fun and interesting. I also came across a ton of expressions I don't remember seeing before. But what is the other mystery? Well, where exactly is this taking place? I mean, I guess the observatory itself was probably made up, which is confirmed by the author at the end. But I did wonder which country or part of the world it was happening in, and thought I might have missed that. But there was one point where I realised I wasn't going to find that out because Gabriele couldn't remember the emergency phone number of the place where they were. And they gave the name of the observatory without saying it. So we know it's not in Italy. We also know that it's not in Spain because of something else said. And we also know that the time is UTC GMT -1. The location is within a desert, which doesn't necessarily mean sand, but could be. This leaves us with, as far as I can tell, the Azores, Cape Verde, and eastern Greenland. And I'm going with one of the Portuguese-speaking locations or some made-up island meant to be in that area because someone in the cast of characters knew the language well, and I'm pretty sure Greenlandic isn't taught widely elsewhere, although Danish is also spoken there, so I could be wrong. But that's not that common either. Okay, that mystery kind of solved with a very big tangent. I would say this book is fairly easy to read once you've got used to the vocabulary of an observatory, and is also not too long a book, 187 pages according to my Kindle. If you like the character of Gabriele, which you can easily determine by looking at the sample, then you might want to give it a go. Here's a short piece from that beginning to see if you think you could read this one. But before I do that, there will be a short review in Italian after this. It won't be an exact translation, and it will be scripted. It's an experiment. We'll see how that goes. Più del tono perentorio fu quella B pronunciato come una V. In giro per il mondo il suo nome era stato storpiato in tutti i modi possibili. Chi aggiungeva doppie inesistenti Chi si dimenticava la E finale e lo chiamava direttamente all'inglese, ma quella V la pronunciava una sola persona al mondo, almeno per quanto ne sapeva lui. More than the brusque tone, it was the B pronounced like a V. Around the world his name had been mangled in every possible way. Those who added a non-existent double letter, who forgot the final E and said it exactly like in English. But that V was only said by one person in the world, at least as far as he knew. Questo romanzo, La luce delle stelle, è scritto da Licia Troisi, autrice di Cronache del mondo emerso e Astrofisica per ansiosi, che ho letto in passato. L'azione si svolge in un osservatorio isolato e i personaggi sono di diverse nazionalità. Ci sono italiani, spagnoli, inglesi e possibilmente francesi. E una donna americana. Non ho idea di che lingua parlino quando sono tutti insieme, in combinazioni diverse. Possibilmente l'inglese, ma qualche conversazione sono assolutamente in italiano. Questo è un giallo tipico per quanto riguarda il posto isolato dove c'è un reato e il colpevole deve essere uno di noi. Il protagonista è Gabriele, un astronomo che ha un monologo interiore molto attivo e un sacco di opinioni abbastanza forti su tutte le cose, che non esprime mai ad alta voce. Davvero, tutte le cose. Per esempio, il modo in cui gli altri pronunciano il suo nome. Lui e una donna spagnola diventano gli investigatori. Lui non è un eroe tipico. Sarebbe considerato un nerd, con la sua maglietta del Doctor Who, che approvo pienamente. Ma usa la sua conoscenza di astronomo per aiutare con l'analisi dei fatti. Secondo me, questo romanzo è abbastanza facile da leggere. Dopo si è abituato al vocabolario del mondo, dell'astronomia.